Imagine a new kind of investing, a potentially life-changing way to invest that honors biblical principles, the kind of principles that you and I grew up with. Since 1994, Timothy Plan has made biblically responsible investing possible, offering mutual funds and ETFs that are filtered for biblical principles. Don't compromise your values. Invest with Timothy Plan. Ask your financial advisor or call Timothy Plan at 1-800-TIM-PLAN. Again, that's 1-800-846-7526 and discover what it means to be a biblically responsible investor. Investing involves risk, including possible loss of principal. Before investing, carefully consider a fund's investment objective, risks, charges, and expenses contained in the prospectus available at timothyplan.com. Read carefully before investing. Mutual funds distributed by Timothy Partners Ltd. and ETFs distributed by Foreside Fund Services LLC. As a paid testimonial, there is no guarantee of future performance and each experience will differ. Hey there, welcome to another MemoPOD. It is great to have you with us. This is Peter Heck. This is the new location. By the way, do you see this thing behind me? And I don't mean that thing over there. That is me with a powdered wig. Children have gotten creative again, as well as bringing this guy in. But this is what I was talking about. There, that's what I was looking to do. It's so backwards. It's like looking in the mirror and trying to do things. I've mentioned that before. Yeah, that's a Canon, is what that is. Let me tell you the state of security here at the school where I teach. Kids just wheel a Canon down the hall. Like that's like a 5.5 foot Canon. Now, granted, it's made of styrofoam, but you see that thing coming down the hallway, you don't think that. But anyway, yeah, so a couple of my kids, like this room that I teach in is the most random, eclectic array of decoration you could ever imagine. I think one time on the MemoPOD, I'm just gonna like move the camera around so that you can be part of the magic here. But it is... it's glorious. To me, it's a great addition, not only to the classroom, but also to the backdrop of this MemoPOD. Because, of course, now those of you who are paid subscribers, last week I sent out a paid subscriber-only MemoPOD. So those of you who are free subscribers, you're wondering, did he forget about me? I didn't forget about you, but we had important news that I had to break to the paid subscribers first. Because we are... it's not that I don't view all of you as part of me, but it's a special tight-knit family that we have amongst paid subscribers. And so I needed them to know that it was the end of an era, a short era. It's hard to even bring myself to say it, but the heck hole is no more. It is no more. It is sitting in a partially gutted state. All of the work that went into it, and it's hard for me to talk about. It's hard for me to process. You know, you don't want to think something is over almost as quickly as it started. But that's where we are. A lot of good times, a lot of good memories. But several of the paid subscribers commented on last week's MemoPOD that, again, was a private one only for the paid subscribers, where we talked about our feelings a lot. And a lot of them said, you know, the heck hole lives on. It lives on inside of all of us. And that is in many ways how I feel. But I will remember the good times. I will. The times that we all shared. And so for those of you that maybe are new and you don't realize what all we went through, I put together a little montage. And I want to share it with you now, in memory, R.I.P. Heckhole. What was it, like 2022 to 2023? 2021 to 2023? I got to do the math. I did the math at one point. But anyway, this was us.
Memories like the corners of my mind, misty watercolored memories of the way we were. for the way we were.
You know, it's difficult for all of us, but I've been thinking more about some of the things that the paid subscribers have said over the course of the last few days. Sitting in the dark, sitting in the corner of my room. Sure, yeah, fetal position. I was there. But then it hit me, kind of like this light out of the heavens. Maybe the real heck hole is the friends that we made along the way. You know, oh my gosh, could this MemoPOD be any stupider? All right, let's get to some stuff that actually matters. I don't know if you've seen this. You want to talk about stupid stuff. How about Osama bin Laden, the TikTok influencer? Or maybe we should just call him Osama bin TikTok influencer. But that's what apparently has happened. I had to be cued in on this by some folks who are, who pay more attention to the daily news of social media than I do. And then I had to turn around and inform one of my friends about this. It was on Friday evening of last week. I got a screenshot that was sent from a friend who had screenshotted the homepage of CNN. Underneath the screenshot, he had highlighted, I guess, on the screenshot, an article that had appeared at CNN. And underneath it, he had written the words, "Wait, what?" with a question mark. And the headline was something about bin Laden is sweeping the TikTok world, or bin Laden is sweeping the TikTok generation, or something like that. And so my friend was naturally curious. And I informed him that he had apparently missed the menagerie of addle-brained TikTokers who were posting videos of themselves. Videos of themselves isn't a surprise, but it was videos of themselves reacting to the Osama bin Laden post 9/11 letter to America. The BBC had posted this, and it was like bin Laden explaining to all of us Americans why we're guilty, why we were responsible, and why the attack on innocent civilians, babies, elderly people, folks, many of whom were of different religious faiths, why all of that was legitimate, and why, in actuality, there is no such thing as an innocent American. And so that's what his letter is all about. And so you have all of these I don't even want to say millennial, because I think they're Gen Z, Gen Zers, TikTokers, posting videos of themselves announcing that they were having an existential crisis because bin Laden was right. And my friend's response to all of that, when I sent it to him and he looked into it, and he got back with me and said that nothing surprises him anymore. And yet it's still remarkable that we are just 22 years away from when the towers fell. 22 years and a couple months from when the towers fell, which to me, by the way, seems like a lot longer than, I mean, it doesn't seem like it's been that long. 22 years since all that happened. That's nuts to me. Like, we are now the same distance. Like, I have lived now as many years post 9/11 as I lived pre 9/11. Crazy. Crazy to think about. But anyway, that we have arrived at the bin Laden was the real hero moment in America. Like, you think the attack on Pearl Harbor, December 7, 1941, fast forward 22 years from that. So that is 41, says 2, carry the 2. You don't carry anything. 63? Do you think in, November of 63, so you're talking the time JFK was assassinated, do you think that the American people then were starting to say, you know what, maybe the Japanese had a point? I mean, that's how addle-brained we've become in this culture. And I am bewildered for a number of reasons as to how this has all occurred. But even more than that, I think what shocks me is I went ahead and I remember, maybe I hadn't, maybe I just heard people talk about it, but it seems like maybe I'd read that bin Laden letter before. But I went back and read it. Went back and read that thing after this whole junk has gone on TikTok. Go back and I read this thing, and all it is a bunch of psychotic rambling. I mean, I remember hearing at one point in time that bin Laden was this college-educated, super smart, he was a genius, and that's what made him such an effective terrorist. Man, that's not the ramblings of a genius. Maybe it's the language difference. I don't know. But I'm not seeing genius when I read that. It was psychotic. And if you know anything about bin Laden, this is a guy who was raised in a family by a dad, Sharia compliant, of course. He married 22 women, but being Sharia compliant, it was only 4 at most at one time. So great work there. He was radicalized, bin Laden was, from his childhood. I know we talk about how he was educated in places that had Western teaching and all of that. Man, there's nothing Western about that guy that I'm seeing. I know there was this media facade that he excelled as a student, but he was not. He was not an exceptional student at any point in his life. And you read this letter and it really shows. I mean, I am a high school teacher, obviously. A high school teacher. And from time to time, not as often these days, but from time to time, I will assign students to write persuasive essays over controversial topics in our culture. If I were grading bin Laden's paper, I would give it a passing grade, okay? Because you really have to work hard to fail in high school anymore. I would give it a passing grade simply based on creative thought and creative effort, but nothing above a C. I mean, C plus at tops. And that would only be because if he was in a class of a bunch of slackers that really turned in trash, I might feel like, okay, I got to grade a little bit on a curve here, so I'll give bin Laden a C plus. But that is strictly on effort and, creativity, I guess, if you want to call it that. I don't really like that word, but that would be it. But this thing is strewn with logical errors and contradictions, the whole thing. And maybe, in the end, and this is kind of what I said to my friend, maybe that's one of the reasons why the Gen Z TikTokers and fanatics are so impressed by it, because they live in a world of self-contradiction. They embrace a lifestyle of self-contradiction. They prefer to feel rather than think. And I'm not talking about all. Okay, there are obvious exceptions. But as a whole, that's where that generation is. Feel rather than think. And they prefer to choose the self-immolating buffoonery of wokeness over the time-tested truisms of Western thought. They would rather choose wokeness because you can feel your way through it. And it's buffoonish, but you get to virtue signal rather than do the hard work of actually being a good person and believing the right things. Now we can just signal our virtue to everybody and convince everybody that we're great. Okay, one of the elements of wokeness is this idea of collective guilt. That's where white guilt comes in. You need to feel, if you're a white person, you need to feel guilty about slavery because it was your ancestors that did it. And if you dare to say, yeah, but I didn't do it, and I think I should be judged based on what I do, well, that is anathema to the wokeness movement. You know who else it's anathema to? You want to know who else virulently rejects such a premise of individualized guilt? Osama bin Laden. I mean, it's no wonder they love this guy. Listen to what he writes here. Quote, "The American people are the ones who choose their government by way of their own free will. The American people have the ability and choice to refuse the policies of their government and even change it if they want. So the American people are the ones who fund the attacks against us in the Arab world. And they are the ones who oversee the expenditure of these monies in any way, in the way that they wish, through their elected candidates. This is why the American people cannot be not innocent." It's just quality writing there. of all the crimes committed by the Americans and the Jews against us. So it's guilt by association. Okay, so Western thought, which is what many of us embrace, I think if you're subscribing here, Western thought rightly, righteously adheres to the assumption that responsibility can only be individually assigned. That is the only moral approach. A man can be punished for his own actions only, not for the actions of people simply because they look like him, or they talk like him, or they believe like him, or they live near him. No. You're punished for what you do. I may be living next to a Satanist. Maybe. But he is not to be punished just because other Satanists kill virgins and sacrifice them to Beelzebub. If he doesn't do that, then he's not going to be punished for the crime. A man is not to be punished for the sins of his father or his neighbor. That is moral Western thought. But you've had a couple decades now of grievance-mongering wokeness under our societal belt. So my question is, should it be any surprise whatsoever that the very people that have been bathed and saturated in this grievance-mongering wokeness, that they applaud this Saudi terrorist mastermind when he preaches guilt by association? And that's what he's doing. You're an American? You are an American. Then you are absolutely responsible for every injustice perpetrated by any other American. Thus, we will kill your babies, and we will kill your grandparents, and we will kill your office workers and your hairstylists and anyone else that gets in our way who happens to be American. That is the logic that our college-aged social media brigades are enamored with. Never mind the fairly obvious reality that this whole craze is being promoted and pushed into prominence on the social media platform controlled by the Chi-Coms, the Chinese communists. It's an empire dedicated to eclipsing the might and the moral authority of the United States. So if you are the Chinese and you control TikTok, we know the Chinese government does. We all know it. That's why there was talk about banning it in the United States, because we know that they are using it and the algorithms associated with it to promote stuff that creates division and undermines the American culture. So is it any surprise that it is TikTok that you see the Bin Laden stuff trending? It shouldn't be. But even still, man, ignore that and simply look at the glaring self-contradiction. And this is what really frustrates me. This is what really gets my goat about the whole thing. Ask any of those 9/11 TikTok scholars, ask them if they believe that the country of Israel, okay, you with me? Do they believe that the same people saying, well, Bin Laden's right. I mean, Americans, man, we support and we fund our government. It's our tax dollars that are going towards all the stuff that happened in the Middle East that made all of these Arab terrorists so mad at us. And so, look, we're kind of responsible. Do they believe that the country of Israel has a right to hold the Palestinian people responsible for the butchery of Hamas? Now, I know what Israel does. They drop leaflets and they say, we're coming in. If you are a citizen, you need to get out of this area. We don't want to kill you. Get out of the way. They don't have to do that, do they? Well, yes, if they're moral. Wait a minute. I thought you just got done saying that you believe in guilt by association. And let's be honest. Recent polls have shown a staggeringly high percentage of Palestinian citizens approve of Hamas. They support what Hamas does. They feel that the October 7th massacre in Israel was justified. You have overwhelming majorities of Palestinians celebrating. They admire the very terrorists that are using their own children as bomb shields. They adore the terrorists who are fomenting a humanitarian crisis by taking the water mains of the Palestinian people, tearing them out of the ground, breaking them apart and using them as rocket launchers. The same people that are confiscating all of the fuel of Palestine, and they have plenty of it, to use to fire their missiles at Israel. And consequently, you have Palestinians freezing to death because we don't have any fuel. Baiting Israel into bombing funeral homes and children's playgrounds and hospitals. That's who Hamas is. And you have overwhelming majorities of Palestinians who support that. So, if we're going to go with collective guilt, are those people supporting Hamas not guilty for what happened on October 7th? And does Israel not have a right to go in and bomb them to smithereens? Doesn't matter if it's a hospital. Doesn't matter if it's their children, right? That's what you just said about bin Laden. You just said that he's right, man. Okay. If bin Laden and the wokesters are right in saying that collective guilt is a justifiable basis upon which to engage in wanton slaughter of supposed innocent people, then why is Israel not justified in doing so? That's what I mean. That's what I'm getting at. By the way, I don't believe that because I embrace Western thought that is far more righteous, that is far more right than that. But if you're going to embrace the bin Laden psychotic ramblings, then that's where you are. That's why I'm saying the letter is not persuasive. It's dumb. It's a poorly reasoned letter. It's what you would expect from a desert-dwelling polygamist who's a terrorist. Nutty stuff. But I'm sitting here watching all these people enamored. Oh, I'm having an existential crisis. Man, then you got big problems if you're that easily swayed. It's only, a letter like bin Laden's is only going to appeal to people who are already radicalized in their hatred towards the West. And it's only going to catch on as a cultural phenomenon in a society that is unable to think and itself is slouching towards suicide. And I tend to think that's where we are. It's kind of concerning. Anyway, your thoughts welcome. Peter@peterheck.com. That is Peter@peterheck.com. I'd love to know what you think about that. You can put it in the comments below. Peter@peterheck.com is the other way to do it. If you don't put them in the comments, then send them my way through the email. All right, I got to leave those of you who are free subscribers behind. And we got another segment coming up for the paid subscribers. And just so you all know what we're going to be talking about, a lot of people in the culture love to accuse Christians of homophobia, of hating people, fearing or hating people who are LGBT, are gay, bisexual, transgender. You're homophobic. You're transphobic. You're biphobic. Has anybody noticed that the people that make those accusations, has anybody paid attention to what it is that they're saying and doing and how kind of homophobic it is? Like, who are the real homophobes? That's what I'm going to bring up to you in the second segment. I think I may blow some of your minds. Might just do it. If you're a free subscriber, I would love to have you give us a shot. It's perfect time for the holidays. Give us a shot. Sign up. It's $10 a month or just $100 for the whole year. Just do it now, and then you're set for the whole year of 2024. It's going to be a great year. It's going to be an election year, so there's going to be plenty to talk about. Viewing things through a biblical lens. That's what we're trying to do. Would love to see you give it a shot and go for the cheaper route, the $100 a year. Just get it done. Just do it. All right? But if you do that, then you can get this second segment. If not, no worries. I'll see you next week for more of the MemoPOD. The rest of you, hang tight.
The Memo with Peter Heck.
Please patronize and thank all the sponsors of the Heck podcast, including McGonagall's Buick GMC, Terrell's Auto Service, Norris Insurance, Stevens Machine, Creative Financial Center, Indiana Right to Life, Tri-Green Tractor, the Indiana Family Institute, Hartman Family Farms, Liberty Financial Group, the Wyman Group, and J. Watson Creations.
Hey there, welcome back to the MemoPOD. Thank you for being a paid subscriber, being part of our family, and for helping me through this difficulty of saying goodbye. It's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday with the heck hole. Hey, make sure that you're checking out Creative Financial Design. A lot of you, it's the holidays and you wish you had some extra funds laying around. Creative Financial Design can help you with that. Talking to one of their financial planners, they can set you up on a budget. I know a lot of you do the Dave Ramsey stuff. What if you had your own personal Dave Ramsey? Somebody that was a biblically based financial planner and financial investor. That's what they do at Creative Financial Design. It is totally worth your time to click on the link in the email. They have advisors all around the country. You're helping me out big time by even putting out an inquiry saying, yeah, we heard about you with the memo with Peter, and I think maybe I want to check this out. I mean, send me some information. That's all. And it helps us out immensely if you do that. But I also want it to help you, and I think it will. Whether it's values-based investing, getting your money out of companies that are warring against your values, or it's setting you up with financial plans to pay for college for a kid, whatever it might be, your retirement, how much you need to be putting away now to retire on, how long you're going to need to work, all of that stuff. Your own personal Dave Ramsey. It'd be great. Check him out, CFD. Okay, I am admittedly no Rhodes Scholar, and I know that will come as a surprise to many of you who think very highly of my intellect. Anyway, I know that there are a lot of people that have been to a lot of the fancy schools. They got a lot, even if they haven't been to the fancy schools, they got a lot of degrees. They got all the alphabet soup after their name, so they're obviously super smart. They can point to a lot of pieces of paper that they put under glass, like in a frame, and hang on a wall that tell everybody that sees it, I'm dealing with a smart person here. This is one of them, the smarties. And they could run circles around my intellect. I do not doubt that. I don't want to argue it. It's fine. It's great. But I can't help but get the disquieting, discomforting feeling like a lot of them are playing me. A lot of them are playing us. We're all being played because for decades now, literally decades, I've heard how my Christian convictions and my conservative politics and preferences, how my Christian convictions are dehumanizing to the gays. That the gays feel dehumanized by me and my beliefs. Now, never mind that my Christian faith compels me to love my neighbor as myself. It compels me to sacrifice for the good of even my enemies. The fact that I testify to the truth that homosexual, romantic, and sexual relationships are sinful, the fact that I testify to that reality means that I possess this dehumanizing hatred of the people who live that way. That is, if I can be honest, that is incredibly frustrating and incredibly confusing to me. It's incredibly frustrating. And what confuses me is, I'll tell you why it's frustrating in a second, but the confusion comes in that nobody else can see how dumb that is and how inconsistent that is, which is what's frustrating to me. I'm frustrated because of what I'm about to tell you. I'm confused that nobody else realizes what I'm about to tell you. I have never in my life been accused of dehumanizing or hating the countless people that I interact with who casually view pornography. The countless people that I encounter in my life who cohabitate before marriage. They live together before marriage. They play house. I've never been accused of dehumanizing people who divorce for reasons other than marital unfaithfulness. I've never been accused of dehumanizing people who live promiscuously, who commit adultery. And yet, I testify to the truth that every single one of those things are sinful as well, are just as sinful as homosexual, romantic, and sexual relationships. So why am I only, when I believe that those relationships are sinful, I'm dehumanizing those people. But when I believe that people who live promiscuously, people who view pornography and see nothing wrong with it, people who, did I mention playing house? It's kind of the same thing. People that divorce for reasons other than marital unfaithfulness. When I say that that is sinful, why am I not accused of dehumanizing those folks? Why is only one group of people dehumanized by the profession of my beliefs? I don't understand that. Moreover, how is it dehumanizing? If I am convicted that the Bible is true, that the Bible is authoritative, that it stands as the only completely reliable and trustworthy guide for navigating the confusing moral questions of this life, including what is sinful and what is not, is there sin, all of that stuff. If I really believe that, and that defines my life, then why would anyone perceive that my proclamation of the Bible's words are anything but altruistic? I believe what the scriptures say, and therefore when I proclaim it in my heart, I'm doing it out of love. Now, my tone, my approach, my demeanor, my actions, yes, that could be fairly called into question. But if you believed that God had given guidelines that I was violating, shouldn't I expect you to tell me if you actually cared about me? But that's only the half of it. That's the frustrating part to me. That's the part that confuses me, that nobody else sees that, or if they do see it, they refuse to acknowledge it because it goes against the common narrative. But that's only half of it. The other half, and this is what I was teasing, this is what I was getting at before. So often, the same crowd that calls me names and accuses me of dehumanizing or hating gay people, they seem to be dehumanizing and hating gay people themselves. And everyone just looks the other way. Here was a story that happened just a couple months ago. Let me read this to you. Okay, this is straight from the news account. Port St. Lucia, Florida, I think that's how you pronounce it, has announced that its regional, do you remember this? Its regional Pride Parade, Gay Pride Parade, has to be canceled because Florida has passed a law protecting kids from seeing sexual performances from drag queens. Over at Not the Bee, where I write. That's where I'm reading this from. Basically, they're admitting they cannot put on a pride parade without exposing kids to all sorts of sexual deviancy. So it's easier to just cancel the whole thing altogether than change the parade. Now stop and think about that. The state passes a law that says you cannot expose kids to adult genitalia. You can't have lewd drag shows that expose kids to nudity and all of that stuff. And the people who promote gay pride get all worked up and say, oh, well, then we can't have a pride parade. You're just ruining it for gay people. What? Is it not dehumanizing gay people to say that they cannot possibly celebrate themselves and their sexuality without exposing kids to nudity and sexually explicit deviancy? Isn't that really dehumanizing? Did you see the Gavin Newsom tweet? He's the governor of California. A lot of people think when Biden eventually is removed from the Democrat ticket, which a lot of people think is going to happen for health reasons, that Gavin Newsom will be the one that they put up there. Former mayor of San Francisco before it turned into a literal crap show. Like, as in there's poop all over the streets. And then he became governor of California before it turned into a literal crap show where there's poop all over the streets. I mean, he's like the poop king. But anyway, Gavin Newsom gets all worked up that Murfreesboro, Tennessee has outlawed homosexuality. So, I mean, they're doing it in broad daylight. We got to put an end to this. First of all, why are we to the point now where we allow lawmakers to just blatantly lie about legislation? They don't have any fear of reprisal. The law says nothing about homosexuality. Literally says nothing about homosexuality. Newsom's tweet is as misleading as when all of that, the media's narrative of don't say gay. Florida had passed a law, Governor DeSantis had signed a law that it was parental rights in education. Parental rights. And the media called that the don't say gay law. It was a fantastic misrepresentation of the law. But that's what they do. But then when you read what the law actually does ban, And then you look at what Gavin Newsom tweeted. Okay, so here's what it bans. The law in Murfreesboro bans, very same thing that Florida was doing, indecency, lewdness in public. That's what it bans. Nudity, public indecency, lewdness in public. That's the text of the law. How is it not the height of bigotry for Gavin Newsom to attribute that and tie that to gay people? I mean, I don't ever say anything like that. My faith teaches me that literally any human being is capable of committing sins like indecent exposure, public nudity, nude conduct. Thus, if there is a ban on such things, which makes sense to me why the government would ban such things, well, that's not targeting any particular group of people. It's targeting human beings who might be inclined to do provocative, disgusting, nude things in public. Saying, man, you may be leaning in that direction, but don't do it. But the governor of California apparently disagrees. Evidently, Gavin Newsom believes only the LGBT community commits these offenses and therefore is the sole focus of any law that bans those kinds of transgressions. Because remember, he said this law bans gay people. It bans homosexuality. So he is defining homosexuality as what? As public indecency, public exposure, lewd conduct, public nudity. That's how Gavin Newsom defines being gay. How is that not homophobic? How is that incredibly offensive? Is it not dehumanizing gay people to read, oh, this is a ban on public indecency. Why, this is a ban on gay people. How is that not bigotry? How poorly must you think of a community of individuals to equate their very existence with lewdness? How do we not see this comment as morally repugnant as when President Biden, you remember when President Biden kind of let his racism slip show a little bit? He insulted all black people when he made that statement, quote, poor kids are just as bright as white kids. I mean, we should regard the Gavin Newsom quote just as badly as we do that. And you add this to the visceral reactions of the LGBT allies. I saw LeVar Burton from Reading Rainbow. Take a look. It's in a book. He goes and gives a speech at some library event, and he talks about how he wants to beat up the Moms for Liberty group. Moms for Liberty successfully removing literary pornography from elementary school libraries. And the LGBT allies are all up in arms about it. They want to start beating up some moms. How dare you take gay porn out of elementary schools? You cannot help but see why so many of us tire of facing baseless, sensational, slanderous accusations from these quarters. Do we Christians always do a good job of expressing our convictions to gay people in a loving way? Absolutely not. I think Christians, by and large, are getting a lot better at it. But no, it's not always been exceptional. It still isn't. But if you are looking for the dehumanizing, hateful crowd, I'd start with the progressive folks who seem to think that gay people are nothing but a bunch of sexual miscreants and exhibitionists. That's where I'd start. Interested in your thoughts. PeterPeterHeck.com. You can always comment below right here. PeterPeterHeck.com. Interested in your thoughts? Send them my way. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving yesterday. Hope you have a great rest of the weekend, and you can drag your sorry rear ends out of bed to go to work on Monday after the long weekend. I really hope that's possible. But just so you know, on Monday, I'll have a memo coming your way. See you then.